8. Communion and community. God's plan for the earth and the universe is its recreation. All things shall be made new, and in the glory of the new heaven and earth, perfect communion shall prevail between God and man. Revelation chapter 21 and 22. The earnest expectation of all creatures and of all creation is this total liberation from sin and death into the fullness of communion and community with and under the triune God. Romans chapter 8, verses 19 to 23. It should not surprise us, therefore, that God's laws are designed to further that goal. This is as true of the laws concerning the earth and its harvests as all things else. Some of the laws concerning the tithe and the laws of the heave offering make this very clear. Thou shalt not delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits, and of thy liquors. The firstborn of thy sons shalt thou give unto me. Likewise shalt thou do with thine oxen, and with thy sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam, on the 8th day thou shalt give it me. Exodus chapter 22, verses 29 and 30. There shall no stranger eat of the holy thing. A sojourner of the priest, or an hired servant, shall not eat of the holy thing. If the priest's daughter also be married unto a stranger, she may not eat of an offering of the holy things. But if the priest's daughter be a widow or divorced, and have no child, and is returned unto her father's house, as in her youth, she shall eat of her father's meat. But there shall no stranger eat thereof. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 10 and verses 12 and 13. Thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, When ye take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance, then ye shall offer up an heave offering of it for the Lord, even 1/10 part of the tithe. Numbers chapter 18, verse 26. At the end of 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he hath no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come, and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verses 28 and 29. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, and from them that offer a sacrifice, whether it be an ox or sheep, and they shall give unto the priest the shoulder, and the 2 cheeks, and the maw. The first fruit also of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thine oil, and the first of the fleece of thy sheep shalt thou give him. For the Lord thy God hath chosen him out of all thy tribes, to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 3 to 5. In these verses, we see that, apart from the tithe, the priests were to receive the heave offering, primarily a shoulder of every cow or lamb killed, the first fruits of vegetable, grain and fruit harvests, as well as the first fruits of the wine vintage. These gifts were strictly limited to the household of faith, to the family living under the government and authority of the priest. At the same time, as the poor tithe, there was to be, every 3rd and 6th year, a sharing with the Levites, whether or not they were poor, and with the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. Certain premises of these laws need to be cited briefly. First, in their eating and in their celebration of God's bounty to them, men are to remember others and to share with them. Second, in some form, all the people who are in the covenant, as well as the strangers, are to share in this bounty. Third, the presbyter or bishop must exercise leadership in this. By being given to and, quote, a lover of hospitality, end quote, Titus chapter 1, verse 8, he sets the pattern for his communion in the faith. There is, however, a more essential matter at stake here. These laws require a double movement within the community. First, there is the upward movement. The priests and the Levites are to receive something from all the people. The poor are not excluded from this necessity. In Numbers chapter 18, verses 21 to 28, we see that the tithe, God's tax, was paid to the Levites, who in turn then tithed the tenth to the priests. The Levites were the instructors of Israel, Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 10, whereas the priestly work was limited to the sanctuary. The tithe was not. The Levites had broad functions with respect to health and education. They therefore received the major part of the tithe. The ministry of Christ today is Levitical. It is inclusive of pastors, evangelists, Christian schoolteachers, Christian ministries apart from worship, and so on. But this is not all. In any era of faithfulness, tithing would indeed make the Levites very prosperous. Paul declares that the presbyters who rule well must be counted worthy of double honour, especially they who labour in the word and doctrine. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17. This means double pay. One of the chronic problems of various societies is the gulf and the hostility between the rulers and the ruled. On both sides there is contempt and a desire to widen the gap between them. Marxism protests against this gap only to create more radical ones. God's law militates against this gap and replaces it with communion and community. Our Lord says, "Ye know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones exercise authority upon them. But so shall it not be among you. But whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister. And whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be the servant of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many." Mark chapter 10, verses 42 to 45. Rule and authority must be a ministry. Hence, in God's sight, all rulers must regard themselves as God's ministers, not as lords or sovereigns. Romans chapter 13, verses 1 to 7. The upward movement on the part of all persons in authority requires them to render due service unto God. The upward movement of the people is to render to all such whatever God requires. Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honour to whom honour. Romans chapter 13, verse 7. The upward movement means respect, tithes, obedience, the heave offering, and more. It is of note that early in the 1970s, when speaking to country pastors in a southern state, I found that many of them received heave offerings and first fruits. This means that we have a religious duty to render the due upward movement to all leaders in society. That is, in a Christian society, pastors, thinkers, scientists, artists, musicians, writers, inventors, and so on. The health of a society requires this upward movement. One of the disasters of the modern age is the widening gulf between peoples. A democratic society without faith creates conflicts, not communion. Second, there is to be a downward movement also. We have seen that in terms of Romans chapter 13, verse 7, as well as the laws of the heave offering and the first fruits. All, including the poor, must give something to those in authority. At the same time, the poor tithe and more requires this downward movement of tithes, helpfulness, loving kindness, and more. The goal is community and communion. The religious ground for this downward movement is the law of God and the grace of God. God's grace moves down to man in mercy. Grace remakes and reorders man, And man must, in that same grace and by God's law and Spirit, reorder the world around and below him. The reconstruction of all things thus becomes his duty, but this cannot be done without grace and love. Hence, the flow of grace and blessing from God must continue in the flow of grace and blessing through us to others. This is the meaning of the heave offerings, the first fruits, and the tithes.